Jessica was in her early 20s, struggling with rent and tuition. A friend introduced her to a sugar daddy website, claiming it was an easy way to earn money without much effort. Skeptical but desperate, she created a profile. That's when she met Mr. Holloway, a wealthy businessman in his late 40s. His profile was vague, no personal pictures, just a simple bio stating he was looking for companionship and willing to pay generously. His messages were polite, almost fatherly. "I don't want anything physical," he assured her. "Just company for dinner and some pleasant conversations." The pay was irresistible. $2,000 per meetup. Jessica agreed, thinking she had struck gold. Their first meeting was at an upscale restaurant. Mr. Holloway was charming, well-dressed, and refined. He asked about her studies, her interests, and dreams. He barely talked about himself, always redirecting the conversation. At the end of the evening, he handed her an envelope with cash and said he'd like to see her again. The next meeting was at his mansion on the outskirts of the city. The house was massive, Victorian in style, surrounded by thick woods. The moment she stepped inside, an unsettling chill crawled up her spine. "I prefer privacy," he said with a smile. "I hope you don't mind." The interior was grand but cold, as if no one had lived there for years. No personal photos, just antique furniture and dim lighting. Jessica noticed the servants, silent, expressionless, always watching. "I have a few rules," Mr. Holloway said during dinner. "Never enter the West Wing, never stay past midnight, and never, under any circumstances, ask about my past." Jessica laughed nervously, thinking it was some eccentric billionaire quirk, but the way his eyes darkened when he said it made her uneasy. She followed the rules, enjoying the easy money, until curiosity got the best of her. One evening, after Mr. Holloway excused himself to take a call, Jessica found herself alone. The West Wing's door was slightly ajar. The temptation was too strong. She slipped inside. The hallway was dimly lit, lined with portraits. But these weren't ordinary paintings. They were of young women, all dressed in old-fashioned clothing, their faces eerily familiar. As she stepped closer, her breath hitched. One of the portraits looked exactly like her. It wasn't just a resemblance. It was her, in a Victorian dress, staring back with hollow eyes. A cold whisper slithered through the air. "You shouldn't be here." Jessica spun around. Mr. Holloway stood in the doorway, expression unreadable. "You broke the rule," he murmured. Terror gripped her as she backed away. "What is this? Why is my portrait here?" Mr. Holloway sighed. "You were chosen, Jessica." She turned to run, but the hallway had changed. It stretched endlessly, doors appearing where there were none before. The paintings flickered, the faces twisting into grotesque smiles. "You see," he continued, stepping closer, "I don't just seek companionship. I seek permanence." The walls groaned as if alive, the air thickening. Jessica's legs refused to move, as if something held her in place. Then she saw them, the women from the paintings. They emerged from the shadows, their hollow eyes fixated on her. Their mouths opened in silent screams, their fingers reaching out. Mr. Holloway whispered, "Welcome home." Jessica woke up, gasping for breath. She was back in the dining room. Mr. Holloway sat across from her, sipping wine. "A bad dream?" he asked, smiling. Her heart pounded. Was it real? She looked around. Nothing seemed out of place. I should go," she stammered. He nodded. "Of course, but you'll be back." Jessica rushed out, vowing never to return, but as she reached the door, something stopped her. A mirror! She looked into it and screamed. Her reflection was not her own. It was hollow-eyed, smiling, wearing that Victorian dress from the portrait. Behind her, Mr. Holloway whispered, "You already belong to me." The door slammed shut.